Welcome to Keep Trucking Personal, where we invite you to explore the heart and soul of our company, Kivi Brothers Trucking. Through engaging storytelling, insightful market updates, and vibrant energy, our podcast reflects our culture, values, and achievements. Whether you're a team member or industry enthusiast, join us to build connections, foster growth, and inspire excellence. Discover why we're more than just a company. We're a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those aspiring to be part of something extraordinary. The pre-trip is complete and engines ready. We're set to hit the road on the Keep Trucking Personal podcast. Let's go.
Hey, welcome to Keep Trucking Personal. I'm your guest host today, Kaitlyn Kivi. So we're a few months in and I've been a number one fan of this podcast each week. I think this is the 16th episode. We've heard many stories from growing up in trucking, stories from over the road, in the office, but there's one story that I want to dig deeper into, and who better to get all the dirt but his wife. So here we are with our guest today, the host of Keep Trucking Personal, Tyler Kivi. Hi, Tyler.
Hello. I can tell you it's funny feeling being on this side of the microphone. Usually I'm like getting ready to take off, so I appreciate you doing this.
This is scary. Are you nervous?
A little bit. I guess I'm always focused on the guest, and in this case, I get to sit back a little bit and let you navigate that. So are you nervous?
I'm more of a background kind of person usually, so it's a little nerve-wracking, but I like being in the driver's seat here and kind of make you second guess yourself. I think we're going to ask some good questions and get to know you a little bit better. So why don't we just jump right in? I think we've heard a lot about your background and we get to pull that information out from stories with people that you interview. So let's start with your current. Can you tell us about your current role at Kivi Brothers Trucking?
My current role is Chief Operating Officer and Vice President. My day-to-day, my job is to make sure that the trucks are moving, that we have freight for the trucks, that the overall operations of the company is successful, and that could mean managing safety and the operations tied into fleet, working with all departments of the company. I really get a bird's eye view of every department within the company. So for me, it's ever changing. I can have one day really focused on a new customer, the next day really focused on trying to help develop a platform that we're using for safety, or traveling to learn more about tools that we're trying to look into or invest in. So yeah, I get to do a little bit of everything.
All the hats.
Yeah, I do wear all the hats. And one of my favorite ones is when I get to get out and drive. That for me it seems far and few between, just because there's so many things to do to make sure a truck moves down the road. And if I'm in a truck, it doesn't mean that I'm giving my time to what's most important, but it's a passion for me.
So you got ahead of me a little bit there. I wanted to talk about kind of scratching the driving itch. So let's get into that, and we'll come back to your current role later. But one of the things that we notice a lot is people that come into the office that are former drivers, it's hard to leave that road behind, if you will. So what can you do? What do you do when you are in the office full time and you need to kind of scratch that driving itch?
I try to direct my energy. So when you're in a truck, for me, it's very purposeful, right? Of course, it's relaxing. You get windshield time. You get to see the country. It's in some avenues, it's like you're on vacation. That's how I feel. I enjoy it, but I try to take that purposefulness and drive it towards whatever I'm doing. So feeling fulfilled at the end of the day, I'm confident that I get that done, right? And I can feel fulfilled if I'm driving a truck or if I'm driving a desk. Either one of them, I can feel comfortable. Now, does that technically fulfill driving a truck? No. I don't have an easy way to get that itch scratched other than when the time comes and I get to go trucking.
And I mean, it's not just an itch, right? Like you said, you're the CEO, the vice president of the company. You want to be involved in all aspects of trucking, and a big part of that is it's trucking. So, getting out there on the road, do you think that helps you to kind of stay in tune with what your drivers are dealing with on a daily basis and, kind of stay grounded in that?
For sure. I know, for example, Motive, and I've talked about it several times throughout the podcast, but Motive was a big deal for us. It wasn't just a little partnership, a little upgrade. It was massive. Like we took on a lot, the drivers took on a lot, and I wanted to make sure that as a company I understood what was going on, and that was my mission. And I was one of the first to drive with that tool installed in the truck. So yes, I think it's very important to understand what your drivers are going through. When I speak with a driver or anyone on that topic, I feel very well informed because I've been behind the wheel with that. I know how it works, not only on the technical side, but the application side when you're sitting with it. So yes, knowing what it's like being in a truck stop is very challenging. And I think, and I don't mean discredit to anyone that hasn't been there, but it is very different than what I think many people think. Being out on the road is very different than what I believe many people think. And having experienced that, it allows me to give credit to those that do it, because it's kind of like, and I know we don't talk about it, but that road life is challenging, and you have to give credit to those that are away from their family. Like that's a real thing too. The hard part for me going trucking is I have kids, so I can't just pack up. I have a wife. I can't just pack up in the moment, in the season that I'm in. It's very hard. So even if I could go trucking, like there's logistics that I'd have to make sure kids getting to daycare, kids getting picked up. I understand how much a driver sacrifices to get through that day, through that week, through that month. And having been there and experienced it and having grown up around it, having most of my friends, most of my family been in it, like it really gives me an appreciation for what it takes to do it.
And, I can attest to that. The last couple of years, I think it's been few and far between that you've been able to get behind the wheel. But before, kid number 2, 3, 4,
yeah,
there'd be Saturdays, where we'd say, hey, this needs to go get picked up. And you were the first person to jump into a truck. And you mentioned motive, and I remember sitting, this is when I was still in the office, and all of a sudden I was getting pings on my phone. Tyler Kivi in truck, 123 is looking at his cell phone. He's speeding. And I was sitting there and didn't know you were in a truck at the time. Like, what is he doing? So yeah, you're the first person to kind of jump in there and, test out the equipment and make sure that it's working and make sure that you understand it so that when the drivers have questions or issues, you can help them out. And that's big, I think, for them to understand that, you've done the work, you've done the homework, and you can help when the time comes. So I think that's definitely pretty cool and something that they have to appreciate. I can't imagine otherwise. So let's go back to kind of your day-to-day. We segued a little bit, but I think it's important to kind of get a really good picture of, what you're doing on a daily basis. So you talked about, the safety, the motive, the operations. I guess without hurting anyone's feelings, where do you feel like, you really thrive? Where your best day in the office is? Which area do you think is the best?
Gosh, that's a loaded question. Transportation has there's so many different things that go on in a day for a truck to move down the road. For me, and the company's evolved and safety has become the number one mission. And so a good day for me, high level, is waking up and there's been no incidents that happen from my time to go into bed till I wake up. That starts my day on the right track. Getting to work, the thing that I enjoy the most is when, obviously, probably like many, when freight is moving and there's a lot of freight to deal with, like the challenge of having too much freight for me energizes, because that's where problem solving really kicks in. What can we do? How do we optimize this truck? How do we set this driver up for the least amount of deadhead, the most amount of money to make? How do we ensure that this customer's last minute load is fulfilled and we don't leave anybody hanging? So that's kind of like an overview. What I really enjoy doing is when I get to have phone time with like negotiations. I know that's kind of out left field maybe, but booking a load is not something that I'm afraid of doing. And I still get in the mix, whether it's through a customer or through a broker. I'm very in tune with what's going on. And I love getting on the phone and talking about the details of a shipment, understanding what it takes to move it, maybe educating somebody that isn't as equipped to what's necessary, and then taking that and going to the driver even and then talking to the driver about the load and what the load entails and how we are going to be successful in it. So yeah, that's kind of, I guess if you can't tell, talking, right? I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy being safe. Like I said, I start my day is very regimented in the beginning. I have probably 10 polos that are almost all the same color. So I don't have many decisions to make right away in the morning. I just grab one of them. I try to keep my morning routine very similar. So it starts with the consistency, get to work. And then my busiest part of the day is the morning. I feel like up until about 11 is when I get the most done. And then the back half is kind of, I don't want to say energy is lost, because that's where a lot more of just collaboration happens, and I'm not necessarily executing.
Yeah, so I heard a lot of good stuff, but mostly what I heard was operations is my favorite, right? Because I have the insider info, and I know that operations is where I think we both thrive. And the reason I'm saying operations is your favorite is because I have seen it. I think that it's all really exciting. You're kind of a project-based guy, right? You get into projects and really go full force with them, and that's where you're committed. And so I've seen that in different places, for sure, the safety aspect of things, even in dabbling in IT. But the place that I think that you're the most comfortable and the most excited usually is kind of on that hot floor, when like the phones ring in and all this freight is here and needs to go, and we got to figure everything out. And like you said, the negotiations and, I think some people forget how exciting that can be. You come in and it's another day of work, but when things start to come together and the plan that you have in your head makes sense on paper and it works out for the driver and the other planners and for the company, like that's really exciting. It can really get your adrenaline going and get you pumped up for the rest of the day.
Well, I've never had a different job per se, so I can't really explain what it would be like to not have that type of energy. But I have to imagine that not having that type of hustle and bustle, I guess, it really energizes me when there's a lot going on, when the phones are ringing and people are on the phone. And to some that might be annoying because they're like, there's a lot of noise going on. But to me, that demonstrates we're fulfilling our duties. We're talking to the drivers.
Work's getting done.
And that's just what I enjoy. I just love that. Like, especially when I sit, I guess, quote unquote, the hot floor, when it gets going and it's loud, it's like some people might sit on their front porch in a rocking chair, right? That's how I feel. It's where my passion is. It's what it takes to be successful. I believe in this industry, right? Like the concept of keep trucking personal is that quality time on the phone. That's where I feel like a lot of it's happening.
Yeah, I think it's unheard of sometimes to have somebody come in and say, I'm the COO, I'm the vice president. And then next thing you know, they're on the phone with the driver giving directions on how to get into a facility. They're on the phone with, brokers trying to negotiate rates for the drivers. They're on the phone with permit companies trying to figure out best routes for everybody. And what I can say is that firsthand, I've seen you and Derek and Dakota, all three of you ready to jump in wherever and whenever necessary. And I think that resonates through the whole company. I think it makes everybody work harder and appreciate kind of where they work and who they work for. And I think that's really cool. So,
yeah, and I can't take credit, right? You did the same exact thing when you were here in operations. Dakota does the exact same thing, and through his changes in roles, Derek is doing the exact same thing right now. Like it's definitely part of our DNA. It's not me being special. Like I don't believe I'm anything different than everyone else. I think that's what is exciting about this. As I've got to know many people over my time here, especially my brothers even more, like we all feel the same type of passion. And it's not just we're here to do a job 9 to 5. It truly is who we are. And that's for me is exciting. And sometimes it's hard for me to understand what it would be like to not have that passion. And I know throughout my dealings with many different walks of life, some people maybe haven't found their passion. And for me, that is very like out of this world, because I can't imagine what it's not. And, and my passion, of course, is trucking right now and family and being around that. But that's what inspires me to do things such as this podcast or speaking with people when it's negotiating or sitting on the hot floor, is to hopefully help people find their passion. And for me, I always try to tie back. It doesn't have to be the exact job, right? Like you can be a planner, you can be a driver manager, and that might not for you spark a huge, for me, right? Like that person might feel different about it, but you can be passionate about something within that job. And that might mean my goal is to make somebody feel better today. I'm very passionate about quality of conversation, or my goal today is to, if you're numbers driven, execute, this. The job is the job, but I'm very driven on this. And so I always want to try to help people uncover what makes them tick. that is part of my passion too, is seeing people be successful in some way or fashion that they don't even see themselves being successful, trying to be a promoter for every role, every position, every person. That's really what gets me excited too.
I think it is funny too that, you don't have that understanding of how somebody can go through life and not be super passionate about something. You question it, you're a question asker. What do you mean you're not passionate about anything? Tell me more. How can I figure out how to get you passionate about something? And you kind of make it your mission. And I've seen it firsthand. So, I mean, where do you think passion is kind of the drive? What do you think creates your drive and your work ethic? Where does that come from? Is it just passion and it kind of stems from there? Is it?
Yeah. And like I said, I don't know what it's like not to have this drive, but my drive is unique. And I will say that because I've learned throughout our time and things we've done internally, like personality traits, right? I've never educated myself on that until the most recent couple of years. And I learned a lot about myself. Like, wow, I am somebody that's very visionary and I can start things and leave them there. And many people are like, okay, you're just going to have an idea and walk away. Like I had to learn a lot about myself and understand that I can be very visionary. I can be very optimistic, right? Like in a good way to portray that is like started washing trucks, started working in our shop, decided that I wanted to be the windshield repair guy, decided that I wanted to do this in our shop, decided I wanted to do this. Oh, I can drive now because I'm old enough. Decided I wanted to drive. Oh, I can do this part of our operation. I want to do so I've been I've felt that I've never been able to be limited. And I don't know, maybe that's the best way to describe it. I've always felt that if you want to accomplish something, doesn't matter what it is, you can accomplish it. And that's how I try to portray to people my vision and way of for them, and many people probably don't realize this, but I see each person and sometimes I call it amnesia. And I think you might say the same thing where I'll forget, hey, they did something hurtful to us, right? The company or me personally, but I still want to help them be the best version of themselves. And for right or wrong, that's just how I always look at it. Like, hey, there's opportunity here. You can do this and you can better yourself. And that's just how I go about life. And that's what keeps me motivated, right? Like, and do I think that I'm unique? I don't know. Maybe I just struck gold and found what I'm passionate about. But I believe, and you've seen it, that I'd be passionate about whatever hobby it is that I get into. Anything. Like I'm very much driven to be the best. And I don't even know if that's the right word because I've never been like a Division I college athlete or anything where I have trophies. I don't have these trophies and accolades, but I feel like if there's something that needs to be proven, I'm going to prove it. And I don't even know, and that might be just my own head, my own.
I don't know if it's the best. I think you have a passion of doing your best, which I mean is all you can ever ask from somebody. So you might not, you're not trying to go to the Olympics, you're not trying to do anything huge here. But if you are going to decide on something, make this choice, go down this path, you are going to do it to the best of your ability at 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge thing. You mentioned kind of learning about personality traits the last couple of years. And just in the work environment, we've kind of dabbled in different things, books, tests, just to understand, our coworkers better. But really, I think that it really helped us kind of understand each other, you and I, a little bit better too. We're very opposite per, the tests and things that we've taken. And you mentioned, you're kind of a dreamer. You can make something out of nothing. And then sometimes you leave it there. It's like a little present for somebody else to pick up and, take somewhere. And your brothers are like that too. I will get into conversations and you both get, revved up and energetic and the shoot for the moon mentality. And I am stressed. I am sitting there like, who's got a plan? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? And, those conversations and those tests really made me just stop and think, that's where your brain goes. That's how it works. And I just have to be okay with the fact that it might just stay there sometimes, and that's okay. And we really struggled with that, I think, for a bit until we really understood each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you got to know kind of the opposite side of the coin where you're going, okay, I need to let her know in advance, like, is this something I'm just shooting from the hip I want to get excited about, or is this something that I want to take to the next level? Because you bring it up and my plan's going. We're making lists where things are set in motion. So I think those personality things, really helped us out to just understand each other and figure out how to best work together. And, that's between you and I, that's with Derek, Dakota, everybody else in the office too. We really learned a lot about each other and how
I've really
it works.
gained a lot of respect for the personality types. And to your exact point, mine is very much visionary. Somebody comes with a problem, a customer has a big job. I'm very much able to start to piece this vision in my mind and speak it very quickly, right? But I also am very appreciative now of the people that are task oriented. Like, they put a list together, they check the boxes, they're very organized. And, before I always just thought very, I don't know, I didn't know what I didn't know. And now that I know that if I'm coupled with somebody that does very well executing, and I don't mean that I'm trying to take advantage of them, by no means do I mean that, but I know that they have a mindset that is different than mine. And if we couple a project that needs somebody to have the vision, somebody that can keep putting it together in their mind, but then somebody that can do it and build it in collaboration, you can make things happen very quickly and you can make things happen very efficiently. And I've grown to enjoy that. So now when I see different personalities, whether there's somebody that has taken this test internally or somebody that hasn't, but I can understand what type of personality they are, it helps me know, hey, I need to taper myself back. I can't spew all these visions because I'm going to drive this person crazy. But I also know that if I'm put together on a project with this person, we can do a lot because they're very structured. They can do things that I can't do, and I can do things maybe that they can't do, but together we're better. And
it's complementary.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess going with that, we're talking about working together and being able to collaborate. So we talked a lot about your history and working with family, and your whole family's been in trucking. You're still kind of, surrounded by family for the most part. We moved down to Kentucky, so it's a little less surrounded, but I'm here. So you've worked with uncles, your dad, your brothers, and your wife, and even your sister-in-law works with us too. So how has it been kind of continuing this journey, working with family from a small company with a couple of trucks to, getting into the hundreds? How has that changed things, your relationships? What's your favorite part?
Yeah. The family portion for me is really like the glue, right? And I mean that in a different way. Like when we get into a situation, there's pressure all the time in this industry. And when the pressure gets hot, sometimes people don't like that. But I know when it's the family, like, we're all focused on the same purpose, right? And everybody's committed. And I don't know, it just helps me feel more at ease. Like, we're into this situation. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, whatever it is, however it's going to get done, but we can talk about it and we don't have to hold any punches. We're all in this game together and we're very committed. Now, and that's easy for me to say because we get along. Now, I suppose in many family companies, it's kind of the stigma people always ask. Had a meeting today and the gentleman goes, well, I'm very appreciative of you being able to work with your brothers because I can't work with my brother. And that was like the intro to the meeting. And I was like, yeah, I don't know how else to explain it. We just do. And don't take that as we don't have our arguments, right? Like, there's plenty of times where we say, like, come on, get in the game here kind of mentality, but we move past it really fast and we've always stayed very close. And I think some of that is, for example, Derek and I, and I've said it before, we were very close and we lived together, we worked together, we trucked together, and challenged by whatever the situation was, snow, ice, cold, we dealt with it all together, and it really just helped us become more resilient. So when these big problems pop up, we're there to calm each other down, right? Like, hey, we're here. Like, what happened, or preparing for something. We got to work together to get through it. And you can just really be honest with each other. And I think that's how a lot of companies get, as they work together longer, you start to become family. So it just works really well for us. And like you said, moved to Kentucky. I think that was for me personally, is one of the best things that's ever happened. I got to slow down all the noise around me, right? And noise, I mean distractions, no matter what it is, and focus on family, right? I got to learn how and what it was like to raise kids, right? Now that we're on number 4, it takes a village to do this, and you have to have focus and discipline. And for me, moving to Kentucky, we had our first child, so it was very, we were right in the thick of it starting out. It just allowed me to focus on business and family and try to keep, because like I said, decision making, you can only make so many major decisions in a day. That's just nature of it. I've distilled down what I can to the simplest closed options, what I do, how I do, and allow room for decisions to be made in business and family. And so, yeah, I just enjoy all of it. I don't have any, there's times where the opposite side of that coin is sometimes you don't take things seriously enough. And I'm sure that is because we're so close, right? Like water it runs off your back and you're like, well, just take it serious. Like, I mean this. And maybe if that wasn't family, it would be taken serious to a different level because it's a job, it's a purpose at that point, not just a conversation. So that's some of the downside, but really, I don't know that I don't think I got to ask for more when it comes to the pairing that we have now.
Yeah, I'd agree. So for those, I guess, that don't know, we've been in Kentucky now about 7 years.
Yep.
And we've been married almost 7 years now.
Yep.
We have been working together for almost 7 years now.
Yep.
And, if you talked to me 8 years ago and said, this is what's going to happen, I'd think you're crazy. And I think a lot of other people think we're crazy sometimes too. It's hard to not only work with your spouse every single day, but on top of it, we're going home and you aren't just working for a company, you own this company. So it's life, So we, I think, have really struggled throughout the years to figure out where's the line. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of couples that do work together, you walk through that door at home and you're done with work. You switch over and you're in a different mindset. You're married now with kids and that's the mindset that you're in. And it's been really tough for us to do that just with the roles within the company that we've played. We don't get to switch off because it is kind of a 24/7 job. We're not sitting at our office desk in our chair the whole time, but we have to be available on our phones and we have to be available to answer emails. And we've worked a lot in the same department also. So we use each other to converse and bounce things off of. And so I think that's been a difficulty for us, but we've navigated through it and figured it out. And of course, we don't always agree on things. And that's kind of the beauty of it, right? Like, what would be, I guess, the fun in having the same vision for everything all the time. So I think that's kind of a unique thing for us as far as, working with your family, your husband and wife dynamics. But we're also throwing in, okay, well, what happens when, I don't agree with what Derek's doing or Dakota's doing? Well, I don't want to get in a fight with them. I got to see them at Christmas, So it's stuff like that where I think the dynamics are a little bit different. You guys have worked together your whole lives. You throw me in the mix, you throw Haley in the mix, and we're kind of looking at it like, well, where's the line for us? You know what I mean? Who am I talking to? Am I talking to the CEO of the company or am I talking to my brother-in-law? So I think those dynamics are really kind of funny to navigate through. Nothing negative, no negative interactions have really happened. It's just one of those things where you go to send that message and then you stop and say, maybe not,
Check my tone.
Go back a little bit. So I think, navigating those things. But do you think that working with your family and having people in kind of the positions they're in, do you think it's easier to hold them accountable for their decisions and for, just showing up? Do you think it's easier or harder to kind of hold your family accountable?
Yeah, I think, and like I said, in our situation, being very fortunate, I believe we're all committed. We've all had our different seasons in life where things are going on and whether it's personal or just challenged at work, right? We've all had our different seasons, but I'm very happy with our situation. I don't have.
We were lucky, I think.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like, it's just, we're all so committed that you just feel that pressure and accountable. Yes, I know there's times where I could have done something sooner than waited. And I know Derek has plenty of things he could have changed and done differently. And I know Dakota, every one of us has the same thing where there's things we could have done differently or better to continue improving the company, right? Like, that's our ultimate goal. We go to Christmas and it truly turns into talking about trucking. I know that probably drives you guys crazy, but we get there and it's like you said, there's no switch for us. Like what we talk is the one language. We get together and it, or if there's a situation that pops up and we need to brainstorm real quick, it's all hands on deck. And that might even mean cousins involved. Like it's not just brother, uncles, there's cousins. So yeah, but I can see where you're going with it. And yes, there's spots where accountability is a little bit different because sometimes we make our own prerogatives. And if it's not aligned with what I want or with what Dakota wants or what Derek wants, we can be a little misaligned. And then we're like, well, I expect you to do this. And well, they expect us to do this. So yeah, I get where you're going. And there are times where that comes up.
I think one thing I want to touch on is that when things do come up randomly, we're together for Christmas or for a holiday, or we're just visiting, whatever it might be, and an issue happens, it's never been, it's your turn, or, this is your responsibility, or you have to go take care of this. It's more so, kind of fighting over who gets to figure it out, who gets to be the problem solver, who gets to be the person that steps in and kind of saves the day. I think that that's pretty cool in that there is no, pushing the buck, moving it to the next person. It's always very, don't worry, I got this, I'll take care of it. No, I got this, and I think that's pretty cool because especially I think our generation and kind of the society that we're in, sometimes it's easy to kind of leave it for the next person. It's easy to leave it a little bit messier than you found it. And it just isn't the way that we do things. No. You find it and you leave it better than you found it. And you be the person that steps up. And when you have a community of people that all have that same mentality, things get done. And I see a success story here with that.
Yeah, that's a driving factor for me, a passion, right? Like when I try to cover for somebody or do a job because somebody's on vacation or, sick, is to give it back better than you found it. And that's a hard challenge, right? There's so many ways you can be like, I just did surface level. I kept the wheels on the bus for the day. But really to say, no, I was committed and I was passionate about the level of service you've given. And I wanted to meet that so that the customer didn't feel any different, that I didn't let you down, whoever that person might be. Or just to lead by example. I think that's important. If I want to demonstrate any facet of this business that I want to prove out or have an expectation for, I need to be able to live that and do that and be successful. And that's just where I really feel passionate about. Like, how can I do this? And that's maybe why, like I said earlier, I've done a little bit of everything. And my resume, if I had to write down every duty that I've done, would probably be really long. And there might be some miscellaneous things, but I've wanted to accomplish a lot and prove myself. And maybe that's an internal thing where it's been like, I have to prove that I can do this. But I really wanted to always say, like, if it can be done, I need to be able to do it and be educated. And I know Derek and Dakota, they're both living that right now. And so am I, that we have to be equipped to do it.
Well, that goes back to the personality trait that we talked about, right? If I'm going to do it and I'm going to put my name on it, it's going to be 100%. Again, I'm not winning gold medals here, but it's going to be to the best of my ability. And, it's important to note that that's not just in, hobbies or things that I like to do. That's in every single thing that you do in your life. I'm going to do it 100% every single time. You mentioned having a large resume, and I think it's a fun thing for me to talk about at this point is you're not just talking about a work resume. I think your resume in life is a bit longer than a lot of people. And again, it's you set your mind to it, you're going to do it. So Can you tell us a little bit about some of the extracurriculars that you could add to your resume?
Yes, definitely. So like you said, there's a lot. One of the, going back to right after high school, right? Or let's even get into how I graduated high school. I think that's a different process.
For sure.
So I didn't graduate high school the traditional way of staying in brick and mortar and then getting your diploma. I switched in the beginning of 11th grade to an online school where I had to do my work. And I feel like online school was new then, right? But I had a passion bigger than school for me. And right or wrong, I don't know that I would agree if our kids wanted to do that right now. I don't think I'd allow them to do it, but that's who I was. And I wanted to be in the day-to-day work with Dad and Derek and everyone. So,
well, that's important because like you said, it was new then, right? So this isn't something that is readily available then the way that it is now. So
Yep.
not only did you have to have this idea, this passion, but you had to go figure it out yourself. Let's go find an online school that exists
Yep.
in 2007.
Yep.
It's not like it is now. And I'm going to sign myself up for these classes. I'm going to continue to do it. You were the one that went out, found the information, enrolled yourself, and then held yourself accountable
to make sure I got it done.
Yeah. I mean,
well,
that's
and I
something
went to full time. Like I want the day that the transition happened when, for a little bit there, it seemed like it wasn't real. Like I didn't think that this could be done. And that's because it was new, right? I didn't know that it could happen. And so when it actually went through and everything got transferred over and the schools actually were coming like, okay, this is real. Are you committed? And I was like,
holy smokes, this is
real. Yeah. I didn't know I could do this. So I went to work full time. So, whatever that was, because I was kind of on the younger side of each class, 16 years old. I could drive myself to work. I was full time in our shop. And it was bittersweet. I remember when graduation happened that there was a little bit of regret where I was like, I missed out on that, like being with your friends, right? Like I was earning a normal full salaried wage when everybody else was still in school and still getting to do the after school curriculars and still hanging out with their friends, living a little bit, I don't want to say careless, but free. You know what I mean? Being able to live free, where I was maintaining a job and I couldn't get a day off. Derek was the pressure on this one. We always had a need, right? There's something that could have been done. And so if I wanted a slack day just for fun, it wasn't like, no, there's things that we have to do. Like
your
this
slack
family
day was one delivery.
And I assume maybe, I've never been in that, but maybe I assume it's maybe like living on a farm when you grow up.
Yeah.
You have responsibilities. You don't just get to get rid of it. You need to be there to support your family, and maybe you feed your family from that farm. Maybe you don't. But there's things that have to be done. And that's how Derek held me accountable. So he's always like, no, like you're coming in. And that was tough. Like I said, I gave pushback, and there's plenty of times where he was calling me because I was trying to play hooky that day. And now get in here, even if it's noon, you're going to come in today and take care of what needs to be done. So back to the story, did high school, non-traditional, left in 11th grade, finished school online, graduated online. During that time, I decided that there was a sport I wanted to join, and I joined boxing. I thought it was a different way to express energy, and it was. And I had a lot of fun doing it. Got to do some amateur boxing for a little bit, moved out of that, and then my trucking career, because that's when I started getting closer to 21. My driving abilities grew. I could leave the state. I could spread my wings and leave and do all that. Meanwhile, I had, like I said, been taking care of myself, my own bills and all that since my mom was very focused on making sure you work young. And she pushed that, like, you're going to pay for what you need, you're going to earn it. And so that was my way to get, like, I had to live up to her standards too. Derek held me accountable at work. Mom made sure that I lived to that, like, you're going to earn whatever it is you want and take care of it.
We talk about Derek like he's an old boss. Like if you're 16, he's sitting here, cracking the whip. He's only 23, 24 years old himself. So I think that is really crazy to think about how much discipline and, focus it takes for a 23-year-old. I mean, 16, of course, but he's not only being responsible for making sure he gets work done, but he's also responsible for making sure that you're getting work done too. I mean, I can't even imagine that kind of responsibility and pressure at 23. So yeah, that's really crazy. Just on both of you, I think you've both had a lot of, drive and dedication a lot earlier than most people can say the same thing.
Yeah. And like I said, I give credit to him, Mom, Dad, I got to see every day, and, and moving on. So after trucking, and then, like I had said previously, my insurance, there wasn't anything wrong with my record, but they believed I was too young to be out there moving along on the countryside. So we transitioned. I came back into the office and sat right next to Derek, and he started teaching me how to dispatch. Never done it before, never knew how it worked, what needed to be done. Spent all that time learning from him. And Derek is very much, okay, you got the nuts and bolts, here you go. Like, I got to do something different, and I got other things to take care of and keep it together. And so you got the hands-on training, very brief sometimes, and then it was you got to figure it out. Like, I can't hold your hand on it, and moving on. And and there's other personal hobbies, fitness now. I think after learning so much about the industry and how health is such a big deal, I want to be able, like I said, I don't want to preach it like, hey, you need to make healthier decisions and do healthier things. and not live it. So I try to embody what I say personally, and so I can communicate it and be held accountable. Like, I'm not trying to, put pressure on somebody, and I'm not here living it. So fitness is something I still enjoy. I know you've got me started back on boxing again. There's an itch when you talk about a driving itch. There is an itch that I don't know if I'll ever get to scratch again, but competing and fighting is something that, like, and I can't explain how it feels, and it's not, and trust me, I don't want to have that come to work with.
You're stressing me out.
I have that itch that is deep, and
just go for a drive.
Will it ever be scratched? I don't know, but you signed me up for class again, and being able to do that has been exciting. I was fortunate when I moved to Kentucky to live right next to a little community airport, and I got my pilot's license because I was so close to one. So there's a hobby that I was like, if there's something that can be done, there's nothing that can hold me back, right? Because I didn't graduate school traditionally doesn't mean that I can't focus and study and do what it takes to earn special privileges to do other things. So I've been fortunate to do that. I've earned the title of soccer coach. That's something I take seriously now.
Probably your favorite one, obviously.
If you want to talk about keeping kids huddled together or paying attention or burning off some stress,
learning patience.
Patience is something that will come
with your own
coaching.
Children mostly.
Yeah. So I've done that now for 4 or 5 seasons, which there's 2 seasons in a year. So you can do the math there. But yeah, I've been able to do that. That definitely keeps me busy. But, being a father, I think that's a very time consuming thing, because having one child might take a lot of energy. Having 4 is all those different personalities. And then, like I said, trying to model the best situation you can. You want to be the best figure. So you're trying to do the best for this. You're trying to make sure you help them navigate life in the right manner. You help them make decisions that are the right decisions, maybe decisions you didn't make, and you're trying to set them up. That's one of the biggest things I learned is your parents always said, like, don't do this or don't do that. And I think every kid has this. They don't know what I want, and I know what I want. And then you get a little bit older and you realize, oops, they were right. I should have listened. I should have put a couple weeks on and waited before I did that. So, really trying to watch them grow and learn, and hopefully can be successful in soccer and coaching them in life, because that's really where you want to see that, you want to see them flourish. And I think that's one of the things I enjoy about fitness too, is I want them to be healthy. Like, there's a lot of things that they're in the garage exercising with me, whether they're just clapping their hands together or laying on the bench when I need it, like some way they're around me and with me, and
starting a workout under my profile.
I want that to become second nature to them. I always want them to enjoy being outside. I think, we've pushed back, and I know you've pushed back on allowing any like game consoles, right? Like, we don't even have a PlayStation or Xbox in our house, for good or for bad. They may be behind the times, but we've really focused them on appreciating what we have outside and what's out back. Like, what can we do in our backyard, or what can you play with that actually uses some penmanship? How can you color? Can you write, like reading, And that's, when it comes to my other passion, I've started to really enjoy reading. And I would consider myself a late bloomer when it comes to reading, because I could not stand that in school. I thought I was doing best avoiding reading throughout high school. Like, I thought this is an accomplishment, because I just, for some reason, didn't value it. Lesson to be learned, right? Now I realize I should have listened to everybody, and how much there is to gain from reading is just insane. And I just enjoy it now. Like, the stories, and I know I don't read the books that you read. Mine are very much memoirs or biographies or things, but I just love hearing people's stories and the adverse conditions they had to live through and overcome. And that is a motivating factor for me. Some of these books that I read, like, and sometimes maybe I attach myself to them too quickly, but I'm like, I love it. Like, I love it. I'm going to take that and I'm going to work with it. And, and so I just get motivated. I like to motivate people, and I can get motivated through a book very easy. So that's the most recent passion that I think is here to stay. And I hope that it never dissipates or I let it go. And obviously you're very fluent in reading. You've probably put hundreds of books to my one book, but it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about passions, and I feel like I've definitely swayed a little bit, vacillated between some things. And reading has always been kind of at the top of my list. Again, having 4 kids, you kind of lose time for the things that you like to do. But, I chose to go to school for 4 more years and literally just learn about the English language and literature. So yeah, I've gotten into it a little bit. I think I was forced to read so many books that I maybe didn't really have an interest in for those 4 years that now I really like to choose the ones that are just for fun, where I can kind of turn my brain off. I think you use reading a little bit more to gain knowledge and learn about other experiences, which is great for you. It's just, it's just different. But I think reading is huge. Yeah, like you said, the screen stuff, we used to come to it. We have 4 kids. It's going to happen, and they are going to learn those things outside of our home, and eventually they'll probably be unavoidable. So as long as we can, force them outside, and as long as they will get along with minor injuries, I feel like we're doing okay. So yeah, I love that we're on the same page there. So tell me what your current read is, because I know that you stay on books for longer periods of time, sometimes just based on what's going on in life. And right now we're in the summer season, so we're super busy. So you've probably been on the same book for a little bit at this point, which I think is helpful because you marinate on it a little bit more, and instead of rushing through it, you really kind of get to soak in the things that you're learning. So I'm curious to know what you're learning about, who you're learning about. I think I saw Arnold.
I was just going to say, who would this be? I'll be back.
Yeah, I think so. So you've got books laying around all the time, and I never know, is he reading this one, or is it just like
Arnold Schwarzenegger,
for decoration?
Arnold Schwarzenegger has a book called Be Useful, and he has 7 main chapters, right? And I'm about halfway through, and I will tell you, Arnold has a stigma against him, right? And he talks about it, and I love how he talks about people think somebody that is big and muscular or just whatever, and the way meathead, yeah, and the way he talks about, let's flip this upside down. Do you know how much discipline it takes to be something like this? Do you know how much commitment and dedication that we put in to do this? This isn't just earned overnight. But long or the short is he talks about his life from when he lived in Austria and coming to the United States for bodybuilding, and going from bodybuilding to movie making, and going from being in movies and an actor to the governor. And I'm not done with the book yet, but I will say there's a few books that I really, really try to live throughout. In his book, the reason I've been able to read it so slow is I can chew on what he gives me for a long time. And some of it's so practical, and the concept, I guess just growing up, I thought of him as somebody who's famous all the time, right? We don't realize what it took to be famous. You don't realize how many failures he had to have to be famous. And the reality of what he did can be transferred to anybody, but it comes down to simple principles so far. Just, you have to outwork. And it's sometimes the do one more mentality, right? If you think 10 is enough, do 11, and be consistent. You have to have dedication. Sometimes dedication makes you stand out because you're willing to sacrifice other things to be committed to whatever it is your passion. And it can be family, it could be multiple things, but you have to work harder than everyone. You have to be willing to lose. It's just been a great book, and it's really motivated me. So yes, this season of life, specifically being summer, there's a lot going on. It's been harder to spend that extra time reading, but when I do get to read, I only need to read 10 pages a chapter, and I'm sitting there kind of wow, I need to rethink how I'm doing it, or I need to work harder. It just seems like I said, anything out there from my experience can be done if you want it, and you have to work hard enough. And he kind of solidifies that. So it's a good read. If anybody's looking for a new book, Arnold book that's called Be Useful is great.
Well, another thing that is kind of coupled with your newfound love of reading is that you're taking notes a lot too. You are a newfound note taker. I think that's in the professional sense and kind of when you're reading for fun. So if you had to take one note that you could get from this book, and one sentence that kind of sums it up of what you think is the most important thing that you've learned from it, what would it be?
I don't think he describes it exactly this way, but the way I take it is you have to believe in yourself. And I think that sounds easier said than done. And I think even a way for me to paint that is in business, right? Sometimes you feel phony. You feel like maybe you're not the right person, or you feel like you're not meant for this role.
It's the imposter syndrome.
And I think that comes up throughout many applications in life. But trusting in yourself, sometimes is selling your beliefs, right? there's a lot of ideas that don't come to fruition because people didn't sell them hard enough or believe in what they thought was right. So I think just believing in yourself, like if there's something you want and it's worth fighting for, you got to go hard. And there's so many ways to, like, exercising. I mean, like, I enjoy exercising. I don't know how many times a day I tell myself, or when I get home, I don't need to do it. Like, you're good. But I'm like, that's the easy button. Like, I can easily find an excuse to get out of something in your own mind, and staying consistent and trusting that, hey, there's a path that you're on and it's the right one, and believing in yourself. You can accomplish this. You know, I ran a half marathon recently, never was very good at running. I don't think I am still very good at running, but it was, once again, prove it to myself. Well, I want to prove it to my kids. Like, I hope to continue this path and be able to say, guys, we can do it. Like, you can do this, put your mind to it. The process was what I was after, and I felt, and I loved that process. Like, the marathon was quick. It was 2 hours or less and you're done. You get a medal and it's over. The process for 6 months, 4 months, 3 months before was what I really enjoyed, because it's like, you can do it, and that you see yourself get better week over week, month over month, and then finally D-Day is here and you get out there and you do it.
Just hitting that goal.
Yeah, and feeling just proud of yourself. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to kind of pause, at least. I feel like believe in yourself is a good message here, just in life in general, in business, in personal life, and all of it. So I appreciate you letting me turn the tables on you and kind of put you in the hot seat today. And I'm hoping that people can get engaged a little bit. I'd love to see some follow-up questions from listeners, comments, questions, and maybe we can find ourselves in the same position again in a few weeks, a few months down the road. Let's do it again. And I think there's a lot of questions that are still unanswered that we can kind of dig up. So I appreciate you letting me take the reins here. It's kind of a normal situation for us. I don't like being in the hot seat. Love putting you in the hot seat. So hopefully we can do it again.
I really enjoyed it. And thank you for taking the time to do this with me.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Keep Trucking Personal. We appreciate you taking the time to explore the heart and soul of Kivi Brothers Trucking with us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to let us know your thoughts. Tune in next time as we continue our journey together, diving deeper into what makes us a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those who aspire to be part of something truly extraordinary. Until then, keep trucking, and we'll catch you on the next episode.